Welcome to North of 60. I'm Heidi Schweighofer. Today our topic is going to be everything we've ever wanted to know about the Alzheimer's Association here in Hudson. My guests are Marcy Schulman. Marcy is the development manager with the Alzheimer's Association and has been that job for over 9 years. And my other guest is Lindsay Walker. Lindsay is the executive director for Cleveland and the Greater East Ohio chapters of the Alzheimer's Association since 2020. Thank you both for being here. I'm delighted.
Thanks for having us.
I want to talk, I think, first sort of some generalities and things that maybe we mix up. For example, is Alzheimer's disease and dementia the same thing?
Well, I can answer. We can both answer that question,
Okay.
but I'll take. We always like to say that dementia is kind of the umbrella term, comparable to like you have the umbrella term of cancer, and then there's different forms of dementia, just like there's different forms of cancer. And so Alzheimer's is actually the most common form of dementia, but there are, many different types of dementia, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
Alzheimer's is the most common though. So that's kind of how we describe it, is that it's more of an umbrella term.
So it's not necessarily interchangeable. If someone has dementia, it doesn't always mean that they have Alzheimer's. And
correct. It could be, there's something called Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal dementia. Lewy body, Robin Williams had Lewy body dementia.
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm. So there's, just to give you an example.
Okay.
But if you do have Alzheimer's, you do have dementia.
Right.
Okay, so you
it's
always have that, but not dementia, you have Alzheimer's.
Correct. So think of it again, as Marcy said, that umbrella. It's dementia as the overall, and then there's usually a diagnosis of a specific type of dementia that you have, the most commonly being Alzheimer's.
Okay. How common is it? What is the percentage we would
Well,
say of people
1 in
over?
3 seniors right now. We just came out with our facts and figures for 2022. 1 in 3 seniors. Now, just because
Seniors
you're
over
65.
No kidding.
Now, just because you're 95, it's not like a guarantee that you're going to have Alzheimer's or anything like that. But it's not a normal part of aging. But 1 in 3, that's the current.
That's
statistic.
a lot. 33% of seniors.
Yeah, right now there's 6 million people living in the U.S. With Alzheimer's. It's the 6th leading cause of death in this country. It's the only cause that there's no cure, no way to slow it down, and no way to prevent it. Just in our service area for the Greater East Ohio chapter, we have about 60,000 people living with Alzheimer's, and then there's also about 250,000 caregivers. So just over 300,000 people are affected by this disease. So,
I had absolutely no idea.
it kills more people than prostate cancer and breast cancer combined.
And yet you hear about breast cancer probably more than anything. And
right. Obviously, I am a 2-time breast cancer survivor, and I'm glad that the awareness is out there. All of us so many of us have been touched by cancer and everything too, and we need awareness for all of these diseases. So, but those are the current statistics.
I think what's interesting is Alzheimer's is getting so much more, for the first time, attention. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times it used to be the taboo subject, and people didn't want to talk about it.
Yes.
They didn't want to admit to it. If you think back about it, I mean, even kind of, we all used to make the jokes that we had Crazy Aunt Sally. Crazy Aunt Sally probably wasn't crazy.
She probably
had
Alzheimer's.
A form of dementia, because we all said in all of our families we have that one crazy aunt or uncle.
Someone has a touch of dementia. That was always kind of like something you'd heard or they have some senility or senile.
Senile.
You don't really hear the word senile anymore.
But what I think is interesting is, for the first time, people are being more open to talking about it, because there is a very close alignment with Alzheimer's and dementia, as well as mental health. And that is such a huge topic right now. And so for the first time, it's exciting to hear that there is more attention, and people are really noticing that this is such a big problem that we're running into, especially as more individuals get older.
Let me ask you something off the topic for 1 second. You know, you read articles that if you eat right and you exercise and you don't drink alcohol and you do crossword puzzles and you are social and all of these things will prevent.
I wouldn't use the word prevent. We actually have a flyer, and it sounds like you read right from the flyer. It's 10 ways to love your brain. And I love to pass that out to people because it's just a great guide of things that you can do. It's just about just taking care of yourself, you know, not smoking, reading books, getting sleep, which, you know, there's so many new things that are out there, like with sleep studies and the benefits of sleep in so many aspects. And, it's not a guarantee that, you know, genetics can play a part of this, and, you know, we'll get to that. But, you know, but these are just good lifestyle choices. So.
I'm a very numbers-oriented person, and so this is what we do know. We know that 60% of the ability to get Alzheimer's and or dementia is about 60% of it because it's genetic based. But there is 40% that you can control, and it's exactly what you said.
Okay.
It's being social. It's keeping your brain healthy. It's keeping your body healthy. It's keeping your heart healthy. I mean, everything's all intertwined. So that's pretty good odds. If you can keep 40% of it, I think that's a great chance that you have control of to not maybe have so much the chance to get Alzheimer's and or dementia. Whereas when you look at it, you can't change your genetics. And females are much more likelier as well for it as well. And then just as I'm going into it, African Americans are 2 times likely to get dementia, and then the Hispanic Latino population is 1.5 times likely. So there is a lot of likelihood that they're so happy that you have us on there, because awareness, as Marcy said, is the biggest thing that we can do right now, is to get the word out.
And we've been really reaching out to those communities.
We're
so proud that we just had this big event a couple Sundays ago where thousands of people in different churches across
41
the area.
churches within our 22 county area, and over 6,900 people were influenced by our mission.
Oh, I think that's excellent. Yeah, you've got to I think getting the word out is so important. I'm kind of blown away by the statistics you gave at the beginning. Tell me what are the symptoms every time, because I'm going to be 69 this summer. So when I forget where my keys are, or my reading glasses, which I have 15 pairs of all over the house, in my car, in my purse, I think, oh my Lord, I'm getting so forgetful. Is that my first symptom?
It is. It's everyone's first symptoms of something, but let's dig into that a little bit more. We're all going to forget our keys. We're all going to forget our glasses. I would say it's more when you're either with somebody or yourself. If you forget your keys more or less in like the freezer, somewhere that's so out of the norm, that's more of a sign. The best thing that I always like to tell people that I think really shows and digs into it as deeply is, if you are really nervous about yourself or a loved one, go follow a recipe. If you can't go from step to step on a recipe, if you don't understand what 3/4 of a cup is, or how to figure that out, or doing whatever of a recipe that you have loved and are beloved with, that's a very tall tale sign that I would call your doctor and get in with the neurologist to see if we could dig into a little bit more if you are.
What an interesting thing to think about. I am a big baker. I love baking. So that if I couldn't follow a recipe for whatever bread or muffins or
because that, I would hope that if all of a sudden you were there and you couldn't follow it, that you would say something's wrong.
Yeah.
I would hope that you would, or if your loved one or whomever in your life saw that you couldn't follow that recipe, something that you've been doing, then maybe it's time that we dig into it a little bit deeper and call the doctor.
So it's not just being forgetful.
No.
It's like day-to-day tasks, like if you're struggling with certain day-to-day tasks or certain memory issues, or time and place too, if you're mixed up with, that type of thing. But, our website is so comprehensive. You can just go to alz.org/10signs and they're all listed there, and there's a lot
Okay.
of details on our
Okay.
website too if you have questions about. But we always advise people to talk to your doctor, and they may refer you, like Lindsay said, to a neurologist to do more testing. So,
Marcy, for the first time when I turned 65, I think it was, I had she called it a mini cog test at the when I went in for my annual, and it was a clock, and it was remembering 3 items, and I've forgotten what the third one.
That is okay.
Maybe it was the president or something. They were very easy to answer, but I had never had that before. I guess
Right.
it's a good thing now that regular family
That's good to hear.
physicians are doing that at the Cleveland Clinic, at least.
Yes, and that is something, one of the major parts about our amazing association is we want that to happen. We want people to have what's going on with you is happening at every system, is happening in the ER, is happening at your primary care physician, yearly update that you're having, because we really need to get down to early diagnosis. That is going to be the biggest change with dementia and Alzheimer's.
So tell me, let's talk a little bit about diagnosis. How is one diagnosed? Is it always, I'll let you talk. How is one diagnosed? So let's say I'm thinking, geez, I'm not able to follow this recipe, or I can't remember how to make my bed, or whatever it might be. I do need to tell my doctor that I'm experiencing problems. Now what?
And a lot of people don't want to share that with their doctor because it's scary.
It is
too.
very scary.
But knowledge is power, as far as I'm
I agree.
concerned. And if you go to your general doctor and talk about your symptoms, chances are they're going to refer you to a neurologist, and they can do the appropriate testing to get that early diagnosis. One of the telltale signs are something called amyloid plaques in the
I've
brain.
heard of those.
Yeah. So,
So they do a CT scan? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, or whatever, there's MRIs or, neither of us are doctors, but whatever the neurologist, feels is appropriate.
And do
the
they
testing.
see the plaques?
Oh, yeah.
So what's interesting, and so much of that's how far has come about the disease, is we used to not be able to know if people had dementia and or
Right.
Alzheimer's until we did an autopsy.
Right.
And we could look at the brain. Now we can tell, and you can see if the amyloid plaques, and that's like the sticky stuff, if there's abnormalities of that in your brain, that means that you are on the road of having some type of dementia when there's more than the normal average too. And so that's what you do need to see a doctor about, so they can really look at not only what's going on in your brain, but also some of the things that you're saying as well, and the memory issues and stuff. So unless you come forward and talk to your doctor about what you're feeling, or sometimes they do that test, but knowing if you don't feel right, always be an advocate for yourself. It's not a bad thing to see if this is maybe a path that you might be on.
It's just such a scary thing.
It is. The thing with an early diagnosis, obviously no one wants to hear that they have Alzheimer's, that they have cancer. It's devastating. But there could be clinical trials, for instance, that possibly you would be a candidate for. There could be a medication that you could be a candidate for. And another thing that's so important is if you have all your faculties, you want to be the one that's making your decisions.
Yes.
And if you
that's very
know
important.
that this is what you're facing, you want to have those conversations about what you want. Do you want to stay at home? Do you think you'd want to live somewhere else, and then possibly look at those places and have a say in that? Just to talk about raising awareness, I don't know if you've been watching This Is Us.
Yes. I was just thinking about saying that.
I love that show.
It's been did a really great job.
And I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook, and I'm just so happy. Obviously, what the main character is going through might be a totally different story than what other people are facing. But I thought it was really compelling when she sat down with her family after her diagnosis and said, I want this adult child she's going to be the one running the show here.
That's
but
right.
she had the choice.
That's right.
You know, so I thought it was a really good awareness piece.
Was. We couldn't have asked for anything better because people are talking about it. They were moved by it.
Oh, very much so.
And you could
Very much
you could
so.
see the progression, even though it was a show and it's stuff characters that we love. Congratulations!
I was bawling the other night.
I know. Congratulations, Mandy Moore. She did really such a phenomenal
The
job.
song, the
I know.
piano.
Yep.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, that was genetics. Let's talk about that for a second. So if I have a parent or both parents, God forbid, that have Alzheimer's, am I going to have Alzheimer's? If I have one parent that had it, am I going to have it? If I had no parents, am I in the potential 40%?
So anybody can have it. It doesn't
Right.
discriminate.
Okay.
You are at a higher likelihood, and you need to let your doctor know that because it's not a bad thing to be like, I'm going to be more susceptible to this. And when you're doing your yearly check-ins, to know and to have that conversation with your significant other or children or other family members, you know, we don't know at this point. That's things that we're trying to figure out, but you could be more likely being a female and also having parents. But
Okay.
how many times have I seen just story after story where entire families have gotten it and one parent, or it's skipped generations, and it's just
Okay, so
luck
there's
of the
no
draw.
direct,
There is
direct
not.
route.
But take care of yourself. Be an
Yeah.
advocate for yourself
Right.
at the end of the day.
Right.
I always say be proactive in, with everything. You know what I mean?
I am with my
if
health
you
and my family.
have family history of something, tell the
Yep.
doctor about it and just make a plan for, this is what I want. If God forbid, this is what the future and then you have a plan in place and there's no questions from the family like, what did mom want? What were her wants with all this? And
I
if it's
couldn't
not,
agree with you more, Marcy. I think we need to have those conversations once we hit a certain age, even if we are in perfect health.
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about with our partners or husbands or spouses and adult children,
Right.
if something happens to me, this is what I want to have happen.
And the other thing I want to add about that is because when it comes to the disease, it's an expensive disease and it's better to be prepared. There are amazing individuals out there that can help with the financial situation and preparing no matter what's going to happen. If you need to bring somebody in the house, if you need to go to a long-term care health facility, if you need to move in with a child, these are tough conversations to have, but gosh, wouldn't it be better if we were all on the same page and we got all of our finances correct,
Right,
and
right,
just
right.
wills and just all of that stuff that as a society we don't love to talk about as much.
No.
And one thing too, we're a great resource for so many of those areas. Right on our website, we have a community resource finder. And so elder law attorneys have profiles on there, memory care facilities, home health care agencies. So that way people can go on there if they're looking for a home care agency or an elder law attorney, they can go to our website and see the different profiles, so at least they can get a feel for what's out there.
Take that one step further as well.
Go ahead.
Yeah, love our community resource, but some of us want to talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
And that's what we have in our office as well. We have free care consultations. So no matter what stage, if you get a newly diagnosed, if you're planning for it, if you're at a different stage where maybe this individual needs to have somebody start coming into the home, what are the options? We're your neutral body. We're the ones that can help talk that out. With technology, we can bring in individuals from other parts of the state or the country, and everybody can sit down and talk about what's best, and we're kind of that mediator for them.
Oh, what a resource you are.
So Heather.
For caregivers and for potential patients and
Sure.
their spouses. Let me switch gears a minute. I hear, so on television, the great advertising place, they have, first of all, taking Prevagen, which is to prevent bad things from happening, keeps your mind sharp. So that's one medication. Then when you are diagnosed, there's, I think it's called Aricept or something
Right.
that prevents further deterioration. Do you know anything about these treatments? Are they working? Do people take them?
Intercept is more treating the symptoms than slowing the progression.
So it's a treatment for symptoms. Okay.
Right. It's going to help your symptoms, as far as I know. But there have been. Last June there was a drug that was approved. And
I heard about that.
Yes,
they're very controversial.
It is
very
controversial.
It was extraordinarily expensive.
That's the
not?
issue.
$65,000 a month. I don't know many people who can afford that.
And Medicare, of course, won't pick that
They
up.
will not pick it up right now. But
why is it so expensive?
Because it's infusion. But it's the start. So let's talk. No matter what the controversial, however individuals think about it, it was the start. Something has come, because it's been 20 years since we've had a new medication come to this thing. But what I'm excited about is there's other things about to come. And this was the first medication that prevented that, what we were talking about, that amyloid sticky plaque. But you have to be early diagnosed. And that coming out, no matter the controversy, is people just kind of like This Is Us started talking about it. More phone calls were made to their primary care. More conversations were made with their families. So I am glad on that. I am very hopeful for whatever comes into the future. It's going to be a cocktail of something. It's not going to be one pill that's going to be able to erase it. It's going to be just like most other diseases. It's going to be a cocktail of a few other things. And we're getting into a unique world where new things are about to come. And that's an excitement because we don't have a cure right now. We need to continue to look for that hope.
But this is very hopeful. I mean, usually when one company comes out with a drug, others want to follow suit. So, and this is very exciting that this has the potential to slow the development of those amyloid plaques.
It did prove to slow down the plaque formation.
In some people, I mean, that's not a guarantee. Just like, you look at chemotherapy, you know what I mean? It's not a guarantee either, but, it's very hopeful. And, I think it can definitely inspire other companies to,
so you're seeing
get on
research
board.
coming now on board.
So
is it because we're all getting older, all the baby boomers?
Well,
I wonder.
It's a lot of that. We're also living longer.
Yeah.
And then now COVID definitely has put a wrench into a lot of this isolation is a huge area of why people also develop dementia. And COVID, what did it do? It made a lot of people isolated.
Terrible. I agree.
So when you look at where we are with research, not only is it research that we're really into and the caregiving that we are, but it's also that awareness and this conversation that we're having right now, because gotta stick for yourself. We can't say it enough. You gotta stick for yourself. You gotta have those conversations with those doctors. And then as the association, we are also really into making sure that this can be to everyone. We want to make sure that there's not that $65,000 price tag, but that it's accessibility. Right, exactly. Accessibility is a huge thing for us. And so that's also what we're fighting on, or raising our voice for, which individuals can do as well on the advocacy side of things.
Yeah.
Accessibility. So it's great if drugs come, but if everybody can't be a part of it, it won't work.
Then what's the point?
Exactly.
Right. And getting back to the early diagnosis that we're always encouraging people to see their doctor, and a lot of these drugs are for people who have an early diagnosis. So what I'm hoping at least is that this will get people to go to the doctor. If they know that there's a possible medication out there, even, if they're having memory issues, then it might spur them to make that doctor's appointment if they know that they can possibly, be a candidate for this medication.
But I have to, I can see doing it not just for myself, but I certainly, if I'm living with a person and I start seeing his symptoms, my husband, for example, who's fine, but I start seeing his symptom or some symptoms coming, or I see a real change in his behavior, I'd want to be able to advocate for him too, even if he doesn't want to.
Right.
Sure.
And I think that that's something, especially as women, we don't want to be nagging our husbands, but we need to watch.
Yes, sometimes people need pushed.
Sometimes people need to be pushed.
And
I
then
absolutely agree.
We're getting to the point, if I could wave my magic wand, that it might get to this as easily as you get your cholesterol checked yearly. that there's a blood test that can show you about the amyloids in your
Is that
brain.
a possibility?
It's on the wavelength, but what I don't see foreseen, and this is again just my view and things, but it's out there. People can start seeing it. They're not going to put it to the market until I'm suspecting, until we can reverse a little bit of it and there's something that you can take, because that could create
That would be a
lot of
horrible oh my God.
a lot of like just so much
anxiety.
Exactly. And until there's something on the other end that, okay, that's fine. If you have high cholesterol, you take a medication. So you see that you have amyloids forming,
Let's try
take
this.
medication, then it will be a lot easier in people to accept it as well. But I assure you that is something that's part of the research. But we need to make this more common. And
Yeah.
then with that, need to have something that can reverse things as well.
Let me ask a question. So I hear the term early onset Alzheimer's, and I have heard that a few times with people in their 60s.
Right.
Is that early onset Alzheimer's, or is it 40, or is it 50, or is that a, because I hear that. I don't know
Right.
exactly what that means. What does early onset mean?
Younger onset is also something I hear too. And I mean, definitely
an
40s and 50s
Okay.
is definitely early onset Alzheimer's. I mean, that I don't see, in 10 years, I haven't personally met too many people in that age category, but it does happen, and
Okay.
especially the different types of dementia. There's certain types of dementia that typically affect younger people. But early onset, I believe, is 60
Okay.
and older. So,
Okay.
yeah.
It's just the stages of Alzheimer's and dementia that you have. And again, it's back to there's no discrimination of age. Just met a family that they got a diagnosis of early onset at 39, so very young.
Oh,
Yeah.
my.
So what it is
Oh,
it's
my
more
heart
the
goes out to
Yeah,
it's the
horrible.
symptoms that you're having in that stage. And it can really happen, and you can have early onset and be in your 80s too. So it's the symptoms. Early onset means that you can still live in your home, you know and have still the control over decisions that you have. Maybe it's the time that you should stop driving. It's just the start of it. And then there's moderate, and then there's
I thought
yes.
it meant, and it was specifically an age.
Well, early stage is kind of, I would say that's like early stage, but early onset is definitely like, on the younger side and everything. But
Okay.
early stage is more like, when you're still
Very-
functioning and you know what I mean,
Right,
and able to
right.
drive,
Right.
I've met plenty of people that still drive and do all of that. So
Maybe they should.
maybe you're like,
Um,
but there's people that are still working that,
For sure.
that are in an early stage of Alzheimer's. So
that's a very positive statement to hear.
Yeah,
You
of course.
think of it, I think of it as from what I'm doing now to not being able to function at all.
And
And-
I
and
mean,
that, but
slow
there's
progression.
it's
slow
it can,
progression. How slow? I mean, I don't want to be. Maybe that's too.
you can't predict how long
okay.
someone's, I hate the word journey, but it's
Yeah,
really the
I
best
do
way
too.
of describing it.
So it's not the same for you, and me.
right.
If we had
They're
it.
usually long
Okay.
journeys. Like some people have been 15 years from like the early when they got that first diagnosis until they passed away.
Oh.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big amount of time. There's not a timeline on it, but everybody moves differently through those stages, and it can last quite a long time. It's a long journey.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know
I mean,
that.
not to be Debbie Downer about this, but then like, someone with a Lewy body dementia diagnosis, I mean, that can,
Be
it's
very
a very
fast.
devastating form of dementia, and it can be like 2 years,
Like
or something.
Robin
It can be
Williams.
very rapid.
Yeah.
But I mean, I facilitated our Hudson support group actually for quite some time, and like the different people that I met through that group, I mean, so many people were on a different path with this.
Sure.
And, some people had relatives that wandered. Other people didn't experience that. There's some people that have the sundowning that goes along
Yes,
with
I've heard about
Alzheimer's.
that.
Sometimes, I mean, it literally, the sun goes down and it's just like a different person.
We
so
had that.
it's,
I'm an old nurse, and I remember that very much from having people in the hospital.
it's just
years ago.
incredible how that happens.
It-
Like during the
it's-
day, people can be
Yes.
kind of almost like high functioning, and then
Yes.
literally the sun goes down, and
And it's
you know.
very terrifying for them.
yeah. So yeah, it's hard to predict.
You know, I will. I'll say that as my parents got older, they did not have Alzheimer's, but as they got older, they needed help. And as a caregiver, my sister and I were very honestly sometimes just exhausted, exhausted from trying to do everything we needed to do to take care of my parents, especially I was out of state. Do you notice the need for caregivers to be receiving support
For sure.
and a day off or an hour off, or I don't know how to, how to.
Sure. So one thing that I want to say is you should never feel like you're on this journey alone. And that is what we as an association, the Alzheimer's Association, is there. I think sometimes you get a diagnosis and then they don't know where to go. And we hope that you think of us. I mean, the worst thing that I hear all the time, and I know Marcy does too, is if I would have known, gosh, I wish I would have known about all your wonderful free services. And one of the wonderful free services that we have right now is a caregiver relief program. We have the opportunity that if you are taking care of a loved one that has a cognitive brain diagnosis of something, that we can give that caregiver a break. And you have to be the full-time caregiver of that person, and just call us and we can help walk through that. But gosh, what a break has been able to do. Stories that I've heard of all these individuals that are doing it. It's 4 hours for them to go to the grocery store. It's an opportunity for them.
We had a generous donor that started this fund.
Wonderful.
An opportunity.
Wonderful.
Opportunity that they can go grocery shopping, that they can go get a food, they can take a nap.
They could just go out for
A walk.
lunch.
Yes.
Take a walk.
The
Well,
one
and
thing-
socialize, which is so
Yes.
important for caregivers.
I think the one thing that I was most moved by is one gentleman said he got to sit with his wife and be a husband.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, that's what we gave him. He's like, I didn't have to go fix her meals. I didn't have to help her go to the bathroom because somebody was there. He's like, I could sit down next to her and be her husband.
Oh,
And if that's not the best thing in the world
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
were able to do,
yeah.
it's true.
Oh,
Gotta
that's
keep
wonderful
Got to
to
keep the
know.
caregivers healthy as well.
Yeah, I can't.
Absolutely.
And caregivers are often just forgotten.
A lot of times they end up in the hospital. I don't know the statistic off the top of my
They
head, but
they get high blood pressure.
a lot
Yes,
of them
they
end
do.
up with health issues themselves.
That is
you know.
very, very true. We have not a whole lot of time. I noticed that you are both wearing matching T-shirts.
wanted to
You know,
coordinate.
Of course.
so let's talk about the events that are coming up. I think the one most of us have heard about is the longest day.
Yes.
So why don't you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah. First off, the next event we have is our gala. The theme is Pure Imagination, which is Willy Wonka. Gene Wilder actually had Alzheimer's, and
No kidding.
yeah, and he's so beloved, and so it's coming together beautifully. And even if you can't attend our gala, it's going to be May 12th at First Energy Stadium. You can still bid on our silent auction items, which we have new things coming in every day.
I
You know,
bet
just
that's fun.
really cool things. And so that's on May 12th. And then the longest day is an event that I personally oversee. And it symbolizes the long day that everyone that's affected by Alzheimer's, it's a long day. And so the original concept was to participate on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year.
Sure.
And people can do anything they want. So it's kind of a DIY type of event. You mentioned you love baking. You could bake for the longest day if you wanted. And that would be your activity. If people like to hike, they could hike for the longest day. We have a board member who's hosting a dueling pianos event. So he likes to go big or go home. And, the event is sold out. That's on May 6th. And he has the piano guys and a dinner, and that's a big event and a big undertaking. But then we have individuals that just do things on their own. We have a gentleman whose wife has Alzheimer's, and he likes to hike in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. He does it on his own, and he does a full day of hiking because he wants to really challenge himself that day, and because it's such a challenge to be a caregiver or living with Alzheimer's. So he's always someone that I use as an example because he really exemplifies what the event was all about, and really does an event the whole day.
Is he raising money to walk? I could make 50 muffins and raise $1 a muffin or something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you can register.
Yep.
You can register
I
at
will
alz.org.
buy a muffin.
You'll have to buy one. I'll make them good. Don't worry.
I have no doubt. We have sweet tooth. I'll probably have to buy 4
I've had
for
some
the
of your
entire
desserts.
Yeah, Marcy knows. I do.
Sure.
I love baking.
I love
I
that.
really do, and I love making desserts. So maybe I'll make peach cobbler or something.
Yes.
Ooh,
Now you're really
all right.
Yeah.
And then we also have one more event, which I'll let Marcy tell you a little bit about as
so
well.
we have the longest day, and if you are interested in participating, you can register at alz.org/thelongestday, or reach out to me. And that can also, just to reiterate, it doesn't have to be on the summer solstice itself. It's kind of almost become a year-round thing. We have someone that plans a golf outing in September for it, and really whenever it's convenient. But we see a lot of people participate in June.
I was going to say
it's
June.
Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month in June.
Okay.
So a lot of people like to do their activity in June. So,
all right.
And then we also have our Walk to End Alzheimer's, which has been around a long time. And that's an event where everyone comes together and does a walk. It's all laid out where the walk is, and it's usually about a mile or 2 walk. And it's just a beautiful event. If you've never been to a walk, it's just so inspiring to be around everybody that's there. We're all supporting this cause. And the Cleveland Walk, we have a Cleveland Walk that's taking place on October 2nd at the Cleveland Zoo, which is always such a fun.
Yes. I love going to the zoo.
Yeah, it's a wonderful venue to have the walk. And then a week later on October 9th, we're having the Akron Walk, and that's at Rubber Duck Stadium in Akron. So they're both wonderful. You can register for the walk at alz.org/walk. We make it very easy. And you can just plug in your zip code, and all the area walks will come up for you.
Good.
We've got, in our service area alone,
10 walks. So
Yeah.
we're in most communities very close by.
A lot of walks.
Healthy bunch of people. That's excellent.
Oh yeah, I mean we have Youngstown Walk, Medina, all throughout Cleveland. There's
Wayne County, Zanesville, Cleveland, Akron.
So people
Lorraine.
can just
You betcha. Yep.
walk up every month if they wanted to, and find
Probably,
some
or
place
yeah.
or more.
I would say at the very least, check out our website for more information. Also, our contact information is on the website. So just go to www.alz.org/. You can either put in Cleveland or Greater East, and it will take you with all of our contact information.
All right.
And I assure you, my email's up there, Marcy's email is up there, and that's also where you can start digging into signs and symptoms
And we will
education.
make sure that information is written on the end of our show.
Oh,
so
okay,
be sure
perfect.
we make sure we get that before you guys leave.
And
today.
one other thing, if everyone listens to this, takes away one thing, we have a 24/7 helpline. So if a lot
With
of people,
real people,
and they speak any language pretty much. So and a lot of times with this disease, 2 a.m. is when people need to talk to somebody. They can call our 24/7 helpline, and if the answer isn't handled that night, it's referred to us, and one of our clinical managers can talk to them. But that number is 1-800-272 3,900.
Again,
So,
it will be on our,
Yeah.
it'll be at the,
Perfect.
sure.
so
that
we
it's at
always
the
share
end
that
of the
with
show.
people because,
You know, at 2 a.m, you might just need to talk to someone.
Oh,
for sure.
And I can,
yeah, you'd be surprised how many calls we get overnight.
I can
And,
imagine.
You know, it's always something I tell people, if you come away with one thing, we have a 24/7 helpline because this disease is 24/7 and
Yep.
we need to be there for people.
yep.
So.
Thank you for this opportunity. I know we could
Thank
share
you
and talk
so
more.
much for coming. I really,
Thank you for
I
having
think
us.
that your starting statistic should have been a kind of a wake-up call for all of us over the age
Yeah.
of 65 or 60. But
And we want to leave too, like that there's so much hope on the horizon.
yes, that's
and-
exactly what I got from this. I did not feel like, oh my Lord, this is certainly a death sentence, because
Yeah.
it isn't. And it sounds like things are moving. Things are finally moving. Isn't
Yeah.
that exciting to see
And
how
people don't have to go through this alone
That-
too.
right.
Don't. We are here. Alzheimer's Association is here, free services. But thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Heidi, so much.
We appreciate it.
Thank you for watching North of 60. All of the information that you just heard, as far as the website and the phone number for the 24/7 phone line, will all be at the very end of this show. So please, please stay tuned, and you can write it down when you see that. You know, you can always send me an email at northof60hctv@gmail.com. And while we're on the subject, if you have any topics that you'd like to see on this show or any guests that you think would be interesting, let me know. Send me an email, and I'd be more than happy to follow it up. So thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.